Hi, Michelle. It's so nice to talk with you and be having this conversation as a follow-up to our summit a few weeks ago. It was so nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Patty. It's truly an honor to be here, and I'm really, really grateful to be invited to be on this podcast of Conversations for Change. How impactful.
Well, that's the hope is that we can continue the conversations that we had at the summit, the Practical Neuroscience Summit here at Living Well, that we can start implementing some of our learnings, not only in within ourselves, but my understanding and my firm belief is that when we transform from the inside, the outside world responds and notices, and other people benefit too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. So true.
So share with me what you do for your work and how the understanding of neuroscience and some of the things that we learned from Dr. Kyra Bobinet and from Lindsay, and I shared as well, but particularly from Kyra, what are some of the practical tips that you learned that you maybe or already are applying in your life or with your clients?
Thank you for that question. With Dr. Kyra Bobinet, I think there's one thing that really stuck out to me. It was something that we know, but I had never really thought about it before, is when she said that our brains don't seek truth. Our brains are simply, well, that is one thing. And then, of course, then there was something that she shared with us that I had not heard before, but that there is a part in our brain called the habenula, and that this is actually what is responsible for the two little voices in our head. It's storing all the information that we're getting. Even if we've had a negative experience in the past, like she was saying, it can be very useful as we learn when we're younger not to touch the stove because it's hot. So it reminds us of those things. But then where it can start working against us is when we start actually believing some of the things that maybe we think are true but are not. And this could even be beliefs about ourselves and our own capability and our own capacity about ourselves. And so it just really struck me when she said the brain doesn't look for truth. It responds according to what you feed it. So that really was fabulous. And then I'm also very much into, leadership and how we can show up as our own best leader in our lives and at our work. And really, what she said is what the future is going to require, and as change is happening so quickly, is for us to really raise our awareness around this. And in order to change our neural pathways, in order to get out of these maybe habits or limiting beliefs and really to expand our best selves is to adopt an iterative and adaptive mindset. And that makes a lot of sense so that it's not fixed. We get to choose what we feed it, we get to choose the information that we feed it. And therefore, accordingly, we will naturally also show up in a different way. And that really relates directly to some of the work that I do. So I am a life and leadership coach on the one hand, and I'm a hospitality leader on the other hand. So I get to use it all over the place. Um, is really about how we show up and with what kind of mindset.
And that's beautiful, especially in hospitality. And I um, must believe that this newfound information about the habenula, about motivation, about how we do show up every day, what kind of state of mind we're in, whether we're in a can-do place or whether we're in a negative spiral, all really depends on the information that we're allowing in, on the things that we focus our attention on. And I
Hmm.
only imagine that in your role in hospitality, that you could lead the way in changing hearts and minds, in helping this whole industry understand how important their mindset is in taking care of guests. Because having a bad day is one thing, believing your guests are part of the problem will change the entire experience of the guest. And so I think there's so much potential in understanding our mindsets and understanding how our brains operate, in understanding how our state of mind impacts
Hmm.
our focus when we're having a bad day. You were talking about the neural pathways and reimagining them. If we wake up every morning and get into a rut, let's just say we've had 6 months of really rotten luck and we got in a habit of waking up every morning and looking at ourselves and finding every fault. If we don't intentionally build a new road of self-compassion and self-awareness around that, that road will get so deep, we may never dig ourselves out of it. And it will start impacting other areas of our lives because when we teach ourselves to look for everything wrong with
Hmm.
including our neighbors, including the person down the street, whoever it is, if we find a person in the world, any person, and start picking them apart for any reason, we are training ourselves to do it to ourselves and to others. So, hatred of any kind and that negative finding fault and jumping on a bandwagon, regardless of, what the conversation is, we're just simply training our neural pathways to look for and be negative things and be negative.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that we've also talked a lot about curiosity. So
Mhm.
whether we are in hospitality and, like you say, interacting with the guests all the time, or maybe the organization that you're working for isn't exactly moving in the direction that you would like it to, or maybe your boss is not showing up the way that you feel like is being impactful for the team. And so, what I always like to say is take the focus off yourself so much, and maybe just open up and ask, what does this situation invite me to do or to be? So instead of looking at the obstacle as a roadblock, to look at it as a stepping stone. So if I don't see a leadership attribute that I would wish to see in somebody, it's like, okay, don't wait for that person to bring it. Then how can you bring it?
Yes.
Right? And we are also only as good as the service that we can provide, is how we're also nurturing ourselves and nurturing our own teams. And so oftentimes when our teams are met with a disgruntled customer or someone who's being rude, it's like, you know what, this isn't about you. It's not your service. It's something in their own lives that they're having challenges with. So how can we be there and just hold them? Because actually the biggest gift that we can give anybody is our attention and our time. And even if it's just 1 minute to hear somebody out, whether that is a client, whether that is your team member, whether family member, or also, most importantly, ourselves. Give yourself time a little bit to listen. But if you find yourself, and I know now that I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but if we find ourselves, then get all that negative self-talk that's coming up into ourselves, it's like, all right, wait a minute, let me just pause for a moment and breathe, and then ask myself, is that really true? And what am I going to choose to focus on?
I love that. And especially right now, I will say this for the HR industry as well. You're in the hospitality industry. I was a facilitator on a panel last week for a group of HR professionals, and a similar question came up around this. And this woman said that she is continually, people come to her and want to talk to her about all these struggles that they're having in the workplace and with bosses and with struggles going on. And the first thing is, I thanked her because she's the kind of person that someone feels safe to talk.
Hmm.
However, if she takes that on and carries that home, that's a struggle for her. So there are the EAPs available, employee assistant plans, hopefully for employees to take care of these things. More importantly, it's taking care of your inner dialogue and not taking
Hmm.
on somebody else's burden. We all have a fair amount of things happening in our lives, and we can listen. And when we're strong enough to hold ourselves together and know that their state of mind isn't harmful to me, that I can just be with that, then
Hmm.
we can help other people see the value of self-regulation. Most of the time when someone gets that upset and needs to vent, whether it's in the hospitality or in the HR industry or wherever it is, we have a lot of unhappy employees. 83%, I believe, the Gallup poll just shared, are very unhappy. So when we're unhappy in one place, area of our lives, it tends to keep us in that state of mind in other areas of our lives. So we start to look for what else is wrong. And I just want to encourage anyone that's listening to be able to take a deep breath, to keep themselves in a positive state of mind and go for a walk. Keep yourself. That is the most valuable gift that we have, is our ability to change our physical state and our regulatory state and find ourselves in a better state of mind when someone else is dysregulated.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate what you said about, the best thing that we can do is regulate our own internal state, because that's going to determine how we either respond or react to the situation. And so one of the things that I really focus on, either with my clients or with my teams or with myself, is just bringing our nervous system back into alignment, um, to be an ally with us instead of being just our head and our bodies in a separate state, but having them align and come together. Um, because, like you say, then we can actually choose how we're going to show up in the world, or how we're going to respond to somebody. One of the tips that I had that I love to do myself. And I'm working right now with someone who recently got promoted to a CFO position, and they came to me. They were overwhelmed and exhausted and excited for the position. They love what they do, but just overworked still, and finding little time for themselves and trying to meet expectations and everything. And gave her one simple tool to try, which was putting your timer on at random times during the day and having it go off, and just pausing for a moment and taking a mindful breath, because this is the fastest way to regulate your nervous system and get it back into alignment. And what it just does, it helps you then just recognize, okay, how am I feeling? What do I need? Maybe I'm thirsty and I need to get something to drink. Maybe I'm hungry and I need to eat something. Maybe I just need to take a breath first. Maybe I need to go take a walk, like you said, taking care of yourself. But it also then helps clear your mind so that you can actually start discerning what is actually important, what deserves my attention today, and what can be delegated and what's not really that important and can be put up for tomorrow. And she came back a week later. She goes, that was a game changer. That was a game changer, simply by making that, um, just by adding that little uh, tip into her day. And I have to say, I do it myself too. I don't put the timer on anymore. I've become quite good at just recognizing myself when starting to get a little bit flustered. Then it's an awareness for myself to realize, okay, Michelle, it's time now for you to take a breath and come back down. I also currently work with somebody who is extremely reactive and in firefighting mode all the time. Like everything is urgent. And that really triggers me because I'm trying to work so much in the opposite way. So it's really asking me to call forth my most grounded state that I possibly can, and help discern when is it worth my while to come in and say no. Now we're going to focus on this, and when I'm just going to sit back. But again, it also requires me just taking breaths more often through the day and just saying, okay, Michelle, how are you going to show up? And how do you want to, um, how is it inviting you to see what is it in your day that needs to be addressed, and what is urgent and what is simply not urgent?
Oh, that's wonderful. And as you were saying that, I suggest that we take just a moment right here, for anyone that wants to pause their recording for more than 30 seconds, please do, and take a moment. But let's just do 30 seconds. Do you have a clock in front of you? Let's just have 30 seconds to just
Um,
keep breath in silence.
that's great. I'll do that right now.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you.
That was 30 seconds.
That was lovely. That's a nice reminder that we can choose that at any time. And what a game changer. I would be surprised that if anyone listening doesn't have someone in their lives that is a little volatile at the moment. None of us, I mean, I don't know very many people who were raised to understand how important our state of mind is, our body regulation is. We were taught how to be successful, but not necessarily how to enjoy it or to regulate ourselves to a certain state of being. And I believe the more we learn about who we are at our best and remember who we are at our best, the more we can work towards regulating ourselves into that place every day. And that's my hope because we can't change anyone else, but we can understand our own operating system.
That's right. We can't understand our own operating system. And I think you also just said something very key, Patty, is that we were taught to be successful, meaning we were taught to be successful from an academic and sort of school point of things. So learn this, get the good grades, get into a great college, find a good job, do produce, produce, produce. But what we have, especially in the Western world too, so we've kind of let our head lead the way in many instances. And what we're really recognizing right now is that it is truly the heart that has the capacity to regulate the nervous system. So when we focus on our heart and let all of that energy drop out of our head and into our heart. And if you wanted to just do that with me right now too, and maybe the listeners could do that. So another way to just regulate the nervous system is if you want to just put your hand on your heart, and if you would like to close your eyes again, you're welcome to, or you keep them open and just let all your energy drop down, down, down into your heart. Heart focus. And now, if you could just breathe, if you could breathe in and out of your heart, heart breathing. And just let a sense of gratitude come over yourself for being here today, for showing up, and allowing your heart to regulate yourself and let you know what it needs because it knows the way. And you can go ahead and open up your eyes.
That was lovely. Thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I want to have more conversations like this, and I believe we will as more of us are attuning to our own selves and our needs and the needs of others in our community. And we're learning more and more about our brains so that we can guide others back to the understanding of themselves too. I don't know how else to say it, but it's exciting work, and I appreciate that you're on this journey as well.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you and all the work you're doing, Patty, and this podcast. Um, I would love to leave the listeners with something.
Yes.
Um, what I truly believe is that we are all, as individuals, much more powerful and influential than we realize. And I say that because energy is contagious. And so when you learn to regulate your nervous system and you show up more and more of the person that you wish to see in this world, the famous words from Gandhi, that's how you start influencing positive change from inside out to your teams, to your neighbors, to your family. And I love it how Jane Goodall said shortly before she passed away last year, which she said, we each make a difference in this world. And every day when we get up, we get to choose what kind of difference it's going to make.
I
So
love it. So before we go off though, I want you to look in the camera and I'm going to look in the camera and make sure that you know and our listeners know that you are so much more powerful than you know yet.
You are so much more powerful than you know yet.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We'll be
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate you. Bye bye.